Nathan asked, what is it like going through a completely online program? Is there any support for students who aren't used to online class?
I'll take a shot at that one. Um, I'll admit that it took me a minute to get used to it, and I kind of felt little bit like a dummy at first because I'm like, I work, on programs all day long. I mean, I'm it's not like I'm kind of unfamiliar with technology and and don't know how to operate things. But it took me a little bit to get used to the Blackboard system, which is the main program that's used to access everything. And but once you get and that was like the first week, and once you kind of get the hang of it, then you understand that aspect of it. The challenge obviously is that you're really you're kind of in this long distance relationship with your classmates. I feel like I know them very well, even though I've not met any of them in person. And so it's kind of interesting. But by the same token, you really do start to build that relationship. And I think the professors are all that I've had so far have been very accessible, very active, very responsive to any kind of questions. So while you maybe physically aren't sitting in the same room together, you almost have that same sense a lot of times that, and you can tell, especially as the deadlines approach for the discussions, that everybody kind of seems to be in at the same time, and there's a lot of back and forth, and so you really do kind of get that sense, even though it is distant. And the benefit of it, obviously, is that you can be flexible. So I don't have to be somewhere at 10 o'clock Tuesday morning. I don't have to be necessarily do this at an inconvenient time. I can kind of make it work around my schedule. So that's really the biggest benefit is you make it kind of work for you, and wherever you can kind of sneak in those moments to work on some of this.
Yeah, for me, one of the big aspects of sort of online learning was accountability. You had to sort of learn to be accountable for yourself and understand that these are when the deadlines are. Find what trick works for you, whether it's setting little reminders or even having a significant other or spouse just always sort of nudging you, hey, did you turn that assignment in yet? Things like that end up being very sort of helpful. And you'll also want to have keep up communication with your professor, like review the assignments early, review your discussion posts early. So if you have a question about them, you make sure and give both yourself and your professor a little bit of time if you want to submit those questions and ask. Because again, unlike an in-person class, you can't just sort of go up at the end of it and ask somebody. It is through this digital medium. Myself, I was moving this past week, and or I guess a week or two ago, and actually forgot to submit my discussion post responses. Just it completely passed my mind. But what I did was I went ahead and submitted them late, sent an email to the professor saying, hey, I just completely forgot about this. Sorry, I submitted them anyway, and I'll make sure and be more diligent in the future. And, may have gotten a point or two off for lateness, but they were very understanding. And it's all just sort of keeping up that sort of communication, as well as, trying to stay diligent with those deadlines that are.
Yeah, and just to to echo both Alex and Dan, this is the first time Alex and I have heard each other's voice, which is kind of funny, right? So we've been in the same cohort for 18 months, and I feel like I know him because I've read his writing, very, very eloquent discussion posts for the last 18 months. But it is, it is very, it's a connection that you have, and I know it sounds weird because it's all online and you're not talking to people. But to Dan's point, like you start to hear and you see their tone of voice, and you can start to really get to know them. And again, like that diligence helps with everything, and to look through the assignments, get a feel for the course, and to ask questions ahead of time, not waiting until 11 o'clock on a Wednesday night and expect that your professor is going to get back to you right away. Like that's a critical piece, and I think that just requires some professionalism and some diligence and able to do that.